In this lectures, we start with Akiva Bigman, who is the head of an opinion Mida magazine. This is the first time I got in. It's a very worthwhile. It's a very serious internet site, very deep, very researching, doesn't give up. And Akiva, whoever reads his blog, sees that his tongue is very, very strong, and he uses a very strong way, and he gives back Zionism. And go ahead, Akiva. So thank you for coming here. I'm happy to be here. It's the first time I'm here. So this is the first time I'm here. I would like to, it's a beautiful place. I was very surprised to see this in the middle of this forest that I didn't know that it even existed. I see that they do a very good work here, and even though it was raining, it's very, very, I will introduce myself. As Yehudit said, I'm the editor of an internet site called Mida. You can see it later. It's very good to example. It's a Jewish opinion magazine. We use it for writing articles beyond the news. We know that people use TV and other media outlets, but the Israelis know what's happening around them. But we come to give like more an opinion from our agenda, which is right and very strong and conservatives about settling sovereignty issues and sovereignty for internal affairs, and not just about settling the country. It's also conservative, in similar to Republicans in America. And this is our agenda, and we do this with ideas beyond the news. As a researcher, we translate a lot of information from intellectual books. We take something beyond what happens, like the daily happenings, and we write opinion articles. With my work in this magazine, I dealt with these issues. We should have a little. We're gonna have some text and issues. So they addressed well in the last few months. I had a feeling that it was getting stronger. There's something happened in the IDF, and it didn't happen just in the last few months, but we saw it in the last few months a little bit more. There's a feeling that is growing, that from some reason, the leading security system became some sort of an organization that is against the nation, is against what is happening. And I'll give a few examples verbally, and then I'll show you. And you remember what happened with the Vice Corporal Golan, which says that we hinting that we're going to become like Nazis, and created a very big. This shows our nation is problematic. I am against it. I have to protect this nation becoming animalistic. This group of wild people, and we are to protect this nation from going downhill. And there were articles and issues like this that the army today is seeing itself as somebody who has to protect democracy. But from who? From the people that are voters, the right-wing people. And there's something that is problematic. They're not for democracy against somebody who's going to take away the nation's abilities, but from people that don't think the same. Democracy is values, but it's not governmental systems. So I see this thing, and we wrote about this in Mida a few times, and I add a few more articles against the government that was chosen, and like army corporals are not supposed to say we see like Ehud Barak, suddenly he's from the, from New York and Boston saying all kinds of sayings critical of the government, policies, attacking it, attacking the nations. All these issues are presenting in front of me something that is really problematic, and I wanted to check it out in depth. What is happening in the IDF and the officers that make them to something that we know from the elite culture. We see a few elites in Israel. We have the cultural, the religious, not the religious, but the we see that they're keeping certain type of values of left, sometimes even extreme left. It's a long process that it happened after 77, that we had a change in right-wing parties came up. We see this very well from many groups, from culture, media, academy, and we see that IDF goes into this particular rut. We see very high officers that see themselves as such, an elite that protects something, the perception that is different. And I told myself, what is happening here? I want to check this out. And something that I noticed, that in many issues we see that high officers in the IDF, we can see that for sure that retired from the army, but sometimes during their service they have opinions from the U.S. government, and I started speaking with people that used to be in those systems, people that were in previous governments in the U.S., and I saw something real. I don't want to say it, give it name. You can give it your own description and title, but I'm going to bring a few facts that, to show you this phenomena, and I'll put some words just to give you the materials and understand what we see. The IDF in Israel has connections, strategical, very important with the U.S. U.S. is a nation that is very strong, is important, very important in the world. We go eye to eye with 90% of the issues that you have. It's always best in this room to see other governments. We all agree that in a general form, that how we see the world and their position in the world, it's best to have a strong U.S. than weak. I at least think that having strong America is good. I'm not talking about this. I agree with this. The strategical way with them is essential, and we can't even think about something else. And it's important to think it's better than having a Cold War or with Russia, have a connection with Russia. It's not exactly, there's no doubt that this is strategical cooperation is good for us. Within this connection, we have a connection between the IDF and the U.S. Army. We have officers in the Army that they go to the U.S. and have personal connection with the high leadership of in America. And this is in the personal and the organizational level. And this system is good. I don't think we have to exchange it. I don't think we should be sorry for having this connection. It's natural and beneficial. We had that in the past with France and Germany, and we had like similar culture when Europe was good for us, and there was some sort of a system of cooperation. But what is happening in this system of connections, sometimes we have a situation, and that's with some elites, that the comparison group of some of the officers, and I'm trying to be very, I'm not, there was a situation that some of the people that are relating to is not the nation in Israel or the government in Israel, but his co-partners in the States and in the personal connections. And also, this is an issue that I didn't show in my, some of the people that are in, leaders go to, the business and the connection. If they're thinking about their career in the future, it's better to be nice to be in this room, or the people that are in Washington. He thinks more about his interest in the future. And if they tell him something and they lead them to thoughts processes that are in their way, he's influenced by that. He appreciates their opinion then naturally, but this, we're creating here some sort of disconnect, and these people are less interested the nation or the government they're serving, and have a lot more importance to what they are told by U.S. officials. And this is the phenomena, and it's happening for many years now, since the 80s and even before. And usually it's not creating problems, but usually the connection between U.S. and Israel, and this is something the leading person told me in Bush government. Usually the connections are in good relations, that the two sides will behave in a good way. There used to be some input under the table, but to influence the government with few things. It happened always, but never it happened that it would do harm. In this particular, in government of Obama, because of the situation that was between the two governmental, which in my opinion was due to President Obama. Because of this relationship that was strained, there were situations that the other side used these relations that in general they were good to promote targets that were not so kosher, or to go against the government and the policy of Netanyahu and the Israeli government, and to use some sort of an internal pressure. And when the behavior between the two, and when they're trying to use every way, very complicated ways, and we have all kinds of examples for it, to go against us. So the IDF officers are going into this, and they're being used to influence and do different things. I'm not going to judge it, I'm just want to presenting it. Why is the IDF officer going with their government? I asked this leading Bush person, so your officers are going, saying to our officers, and he says, no, God forbid, our officers never do this. But the State Department is doing it. So they're behind it. So the State Department, the political level, the State Department is doing this. It's not that the head corporal, the U.S. head corporal that controls Europe, he's going to talk to his it's the State Department that creates like relations with the head IDF Israeli people, and they sit together and tell them how they see things, and they say, like, it's not like they pick up the phone and do this, do that. It's the State Department. The State Department sees very likely if you guys do this or that. So he kind of shows them the way, and all this has weight, personal weight, organizational weight, and it has influence for those people. And when he says that, it people understand where he's leading. And when they hear it in this kind of it comes from here and there, and when they sit in a forum and give their influence from the State Department's views. If, it's not that they're going to help our friends, the Americans, but there is a way to do it. So we'll start, go to this show. I'll show you a few examples to this, and I'll try to explain what it causes and what it does. It's very important. From strategical point, it's not like a revolution, but we have to be aware of it. We have to be aware of this phenomenon. And when we see this, and we see what is going on, and why an ex-IDF is saying what he's saying, it's much easier to deal with it. So as you can see, Eisenkot gets the High Legion Award from the commander. It's in the I don't remember his name, but You'll see it comes following 20 years. All are high. They get the High Legionnaire award, and already in the beginning. So about a half a year ago, I was Ashkenazi for like about a year, and he got the High Legion for all kinds of things. It's obviously he's not. It's not for what he's doing. It's actually for his future performance. So it's kind of funny how that works. And you see two examples of while working. I saw one I knew about it, and the other one I was surprised about. Many remember. I didn't put it here. Carolyn Glick had in the Jerusalem Post has a debate with Yael Dagan like 2-3 years ago, and she told him that he prepared attacking Iran, and he denied, like he didn't want to do it. And it sounded like Carolyn Glick, and everybody thought what they thought. And after he died, Ilana Dayan had an interview, some sort of a research about it, and we find out that Carolyn Glick was right, 100%. She, Ilana Dayan, and other. Let's see what he really. Ilana Dayan in her says Dagan is doing everything to prevent a war. He went to leaders in America and said he doesn't feel comfortable with the leadership in Israel. And during this time, and Leon Panetta, the defense minister in the last government of Obama, and says and describes what Dagan says. He was talking about the moment that he's going to get and somebody's going to push the wrong button, and things are being accepted for political reasons. And he thinks that the leadership in Israel is doing something very dangerous. The elite is going against what the government is doing, something very dangerous. And I have to prevent this. And I have to prevent this actions from themselves. Some sort of elitistic, and he goes to his leader in the United States, and they're going to do this thing against Iran. It was published somewhere else. Leon Panetta was part of making it to deny this. There was an article about they used to be the advisor of Obama that said there was a campaign to he was doing manipulation with newspaper media and people that accept he was exposed, and he says about what he did, and he was at the end he wanted to kind of make publicity for himself, and with it they spoke with other people and came up. And Panetta promised to Ehud Barak and Netanyahu, whoever was in touch with him, that the Americans, all the options are acceptable, including attack. And he did that because he wanted to prevent us from attacking. And in hindsight, when he asked, he says that he didn't. So they were afraid that we'll attack, and if we'll attack, it's going to stop the relationship with Iran. And it was a lot of secret meetings with Iran, and he didn't tell us about it. Israel had to use the intelligence to find out about there was a lot of breaking between the U.S. and between Netanyahu and Obama, and Obama was hiding all kinds of relationship behind his back, and he went to the UN with the big description of the bomb. Within this context, the head of the Mossad is helping the Americans to stop the attack on Iran. So I looked at the material, and I see, as you see on the right side, also the supreme leader of our IDF, Benny Gantz, is going to Avda, and they love this particular Ilana Dayan. And look at the headline. Israel is going to promote this is a head of the army that is going for within a year of coming out, there's a few months ago, and is going, Israel has to promote the, peace process. And I haven't seen an IDF leader in the last 20 years that says, besides Ya'alon, that says Israel doesn't have to go for the peace process. everybody's finishing thing that this is Benny Gantz also believe in this, and she speaks with them about the attack, and I speak about this if we should or shouldn't attack, and he says, she asks him, do you think you veto if it was dangerous to Israel? I would go to this room and they're gonna hear it very straight. But this is a country that has an army. And then she asks him if they heard this and they mean that attacking is dangerous. And did they hear it very clear from you? What do you mean? Of course. Ask them. This never came to he didn't have an order to attack, but of course they spoke about it and then prepared for it, and the army was doing drills for it. And because of what they're hearing from you, I want to believe that they listened to me and also considered what I say. So he understands that as the leader of the army, he didn't get an order or a general idea to have this option as a possibility, to have plans like it was before the Osiraq operation. 10 hours that they go all the way to Iraq and back. It took about a year to preparation with models and ideas, strategical plans. So when you speak with the head of the IDF is not willing to have the planning, is a long process. If somebody delays and doesn't really feel all the way with it, is a problem. This is Benny Gantz. It's going to meetings of Darkenu. Is V15 the new? V15 was the one that was in the last election to change the government. They didn't say they're for the left, but they wanted to exchange it. Anybody who was Kachlan and left, of course, to change the leader, Netanyahu. There wasn't another possibility. There weren't. And we found out that later they got money from the Americans. There were all kinds of ways what they used and what they didn't, but bottom line, they got money from the Americans, and they used this money to create a platform that would help them to raise a lot of people. It wasn't a campaign for Facebook and media. It was a platform that was practical for the election days with people and phone numbers and SMS and having people to come to the polls and to get them and vote. And as a side note, we're sure that the election was, we won, but it was a mistake. If you look at the election, and Bougie said after the election, if you look at the numbers, they brought tens of 100,000 people more than last time. So their act was successful. They went to their base and got them. And there were way more people that came, but the right wing did the same and more came. So if you think we're in euphoria of 100 years of the right, it's not that simple. They did a very good job and very successful, but we succeed better, but that was on the verge. So it's occupation art, according to Gadi Shamni, head corporal of IDF. He was in the central division and is a director against the occupation, and this is one of many articles in magazines that was published, and I brought this, and it's a very long article, and you see he's not afraid to say that he was the head of the occupation, the finger that is blaming towards the politicians. They are controlled by a little group of settlers, extreme settlers. You have to save all the politicians from the extreme left, the right. So it's the same position as before. And he's saying there is a partner and there's a solution, and you just have to get away from the settlers, the extreme settlers. So the extreme settlers. It's this concept that is dogma, that is about the political reality. And he was the head of the central command, and he was a good guy. He was very proactive. He was against going out of the Jordan Valley. But he can hear it comes out of the army, and we hear from him other singing songs. And Gadi Shamni is not for nothing. He had a research that was published about a security system for the two-state solution. As you can see, he'll read it in Hebrew, and you want to promote a dialogue for a security system for a two-state solution. So he comes to the generation that he's an expert, a security expert, that wants to explain how can they promote a two states and keep it secure. And yeah, we are so security opposed that we know what you could do. We can do a Palestinian state without thinking about the scare of the right. 100-page research, and it was written by the Center for New American Security. What is the center? So it was founded in 2007, just before Obama came. It's connected very close to the U.S. government. Many people were in like Obama, like I see Michelle Flaherty, Court Campbell. There were the founders, Dennis Ross, Ashton Carton, were other people in it. Ashton Carton is the defense minister right now, is still one of the leaders in this foundation. It's connected very close to the Obama Democratic government, and he promotes, one of the first things that he does is a strategical dialogue with Iran, negotiation, how we can do that, how we can lower the flames, and all kinds of talk that became the nuclear agreement, and they created the foundation of it. And then what they do is to promote the two-state solution, and Gadi Shamni gave him like a scholarship for his research. And you see the connection. Gadi Shamni, as I said, he also have a personal connection with people. This isn't from Ryan. General John Allen, he's the messenger for the Middle East to do peace and two states idea. And Ynet, Yitzhak Ben Chorin, wants to find somebody to speak with General Allen and speak with them. And who does he want? Of course, is Gadi Shamni, of course. There he meets with them, and they become friends. While he was the vice corporal of the Central Brigade, and Gadi Shamni, John Allen is my friend. He comes to my house, he goes to my house. We have a very good connection, and lately we even had lunch together. So that closes up, like, she gives us a good example. He's a personal friend of Gadi Shamni, and that's how we move things. And we have a previous brigadier general that a few examples from people that are in service. And now we see also another example of, I'll say it shortly, Nitzal Alon, when he became the brigade. I had a New York Times article, and in this he goes against Tag Mechir. That's one of the challenges of he doesn't do enough. This people, this extreme right idea is that we have problems on our side, that we have to deal with them. The IDF has to protect from us. And this article was published, and Caroline Glick went against this position, according to this article. And who goes for his side on the right? Two people. And they write, the Jerusalem Post is hypocrite, and blah, blah, blah. And look what it says in the highlighted portion. Is the simple fact is that Alon spoke on record with the full agreement of the Glick was saying that it wasn't with approval, it was done under authority, under color of authority. So we see a new one who represents the head and says this. So it's the whole system then. So when we see who is protecting his views, see, one is Stephen White, used to be a previous person of the PA in Israel under General Dayton, who used to work for a while in this region. And then the second one is a previous colonel who used to be another Israeli representative. So I don't know this, and I assume those people know Nitan alone personally. And so when he has a problem, they're helping. I can't say that he asked them or whatever, but they're helping him to become. He's a good position, has a good position, and they're helping each other. And when he is out of the service, he's going to help them. So it's kind of a synergy. We have a few organizations, and they're based on leaders in the idea of it's important to know these personas. One is Commanders for the Security of Israel. It was founded in 2014, and we'll see their vision. They were very active during the elections, and what they're going to do, their vision is the state of Israel will do some sort of a peace thing with the Arabs and an agreement will be two-state solution, going back to 67 borders. A solution is very extreme. It's not, it's the 67 borders, and blah, blah, blah. And the bottom line, and that's why they brought them, the security system can protect our borders, and we're strong with this, we killed, we can do this. And that's what they're saying. Background. This organization was spontaneously founded in 2014. I love the word spontaneous. Do you know what happens then? If it would happen then, and then we had the elections in 2015. So spontaneously they decided to found this thing. They told the government that they sent a letter to the prime minister, and there's 100 and something officers, that want to go back to 1967 border and change the government, and then in the to promote a peaceful organization with the PA, influencing the political system and the public. It's a lobby system. So they worked during the elections, and this is the letter they sent to Netanyahu. We know the themes of it, but see on the last line before, it's not left or right, it's not a fear. We have a solution to solve all the possibilities that it's going to succeed. Okay. And the next, we tried to do all those things, but it didn't work. We didn't succeed. So we're very sorry that it happened. This is the letter that they sent to Netanyahu. And this is publicity that they had in the newspapers. And now we're going to go to the direct connection with Netanyahu. In March went to and was talking against the nuclear agreement. Most of the security base agree that this is a very bad agreement. Everybody say that it's bad. What are the argument about Netanyahu? What Netanyahu is doing? So they said, it's messages that go again and again, and I wrote an article about it. I called it Obama Tom, as the Aretz for the service of the White House. And I wrote there a lot about the politics and the security-based people. And the agreement is not good, but don't go to the Congress. It's not good for us. It's making a non-partisan issue. It's not a good agreement. It was already signed. Be nice to Obama. It's not good, but don't do this political issue in the Congress. So they're going what is Netanyahu's doing. And when Netanyahu is going against Obama and they're fighting Netanyahu, it's clear where they are. So the prime minister is going to the Congress to speak against this agreement, and this group of this people is organizing some sort of a journalist meeting, and you have to and they're not saying that the agreement is good, but the speech of Netanyahu is bad for. And I'm going to show you the movie. It was before the election in 2015. We have to exchange. We have to bring somebody else. It's going to be a bad thing. And 2 years after, I didn't see the bad thing. And in the election, we see very high Amnon Reshev, who's a commander that was very Amiram Levine, people that have a very good security record. It's not just riffraffs, you know. They did a lot for the country, but they're putting themselves on that side. And in the election is very critical if they're going to go for agreements and we'll have some borders and blah blah, or are we going to go to fight and have not a national disaster? So Bibi is bad and we're good. Amiram Levine was in a conference with Gerbes that said about a leftist meeting, and he's speaking there. If you want to have a democratic country, a Jewish country, a place that is good to live, enough for the scary tactics. And he talks about the Holocaust. We have to give back the hope, change, save the country. Vote for a change. And this is this particular organization. And again, we saw people in the army and security that going for the elite and the left very clearly, and they even say that for themselves. I say when I'm gonna come, the funding of this particular organization that we did, I couldn't find. It's kind of vague. It takes a few years until you see the funding. It's spontaneously growth of it, but it seems very peculiar that in a few years we'll know exactly how the spontaneous money came. There's another, the group of security experts for peace, and it's funded by the New Israeli Fund for many years. You have two endowments from 107,000 and $176,000. It's a lot of money. It's like $800,000 in 2015 only. It's from New Israeli Funds, and they have other sources, and it's clear what's the story there. And also they send letters to Boogie, to Bibi, to Gantz, the breakage of the peace process. We have to do something, otherwise there'll be disaster. And we have to go back to negotiations. We see the names. Talia Sasson is there, very famous name. Shaul Arieli, the Geneva initiatives. We see the commanders, some big people. It's leaders of the IDF previously. So you see the name. I believe them. It's a big mass of leaders in the army. And we see some of their work. Settlers is not defense, something that they want to go. Without the settlements, there'll be a security problem. We are saying that if we're going to be on the mountain, is going to keep the airport and everything is safe, but they are breaking that idea. In November 2013, also the Jordan Valley is not important. We can give it away. All kinds of things. We know them from the new Middle East with Paris. So there's no idea for any defensive thing anymore, like for a place. But after the disengagement, we feel that it's not true. We know it's not true. And in Yediot, we see some sort of an article about Tag Mechir, this organization that the police is not possible to fight it, and the government doesn't care. So the extreme of the right are leaders leading or representing the right, and the government doesn't care about it. And what does it mean? It's something that the government is like under current, that the face of it is Tag Mechir and the extremists and all that. And we're saying things against it. It's all the same themes. We have the elitist security defense people that we want to keep the Jewish country, and we have this, leaders are, Leor Azaria, the Tzel, the shadow, that they promote Tag Mahir, they want this people that go around. Bibi is inciting for against the Arabs. We have a very important governmental program. The parameters is clear. 1967 border exchange of parts, having a country that is no with no weapons. Jerusalem has two capitals. Solution for the refugees, the Arab refugees, going to a Palestinian state. All these ideas that's been floating around. The plans that are the most extreme that the left has is being promoted by these commanders. And so they visit the states, they meet the Jewish organization, and here we see on the bottom the ambassador for Israel that meets. There's some sort of relationship. The leaders of the Buzi Herzog on the left, Yair Lapid, Benny Gantz, was a new retiree at that time and speak about the issues. I don't know what he spoke, but he didn't speak about the essential level of this particular hill for security. And Yaakov Perry is another one, is the head of the Shabak previously. The head of the Shabak previously. The same ideas. And how? So this is the phenomenon. So we see this. How is it happening? So we're gonna see. So there's connections between the two partners, U.S. and Israel, that creates this connections and brings this to be. One is the defense, the part of the command post. See where they studied. Eisenkot is the head of Army, U.S. Army. The Vice Yair Golan also studied in this particular college. Second degree in Harvard University. Sits in Harvard, he meets people, and he doesn't just do tests. The head of the North Brigade, second degree in Harvard and second degree in Johns Hopkins University. Yep, in the States. Yoel Citrick from Defense Institute in Pennsylvania, second degree in the U.S. More or less, they mostly write that in their. They got a lot of educational. They meet people, events. They come here when they're officers, really leading officers. But they already high-level officers that know that their future is there, and they're going to be in the security system. So they meet people in the U.S. and they create some sort of a connection. It's good. I'm happy that they study there. I'm not. If Gadi Eisenkot, but I don't know if Gadi Eisenkot was better to have his degree in Bulgaria, but there's a few security idea of people right wing, but Boogie Alon was is right. I don't know where he's going, but he was right wing. Gershon Cohen is Uzi Dayan. There's a few here and there. Is there a change in the IDF? But no, I don't think so. From what I see, it's becoming worse. But I'm gonna give you time for questions. The National Defense University. I brought some. So this is the National Defense University in Washington. Leader of the IDF comes here all the time. There's also the people that finished in 2001, Ram Rodberg, that just retired right now. We'll see where he's going to go. Benny Gantz, see? 1998 finished. Herzl Levy studied in 2005. Shelley Goodman that retired, and look what he's doing as the Lockheed Martin in Israel. Ilan Malka, I don't know what he's doing today. Many people, the Legion, the American Legion, is Ehud Barak, Amnon Lipkin Shachak, Shaul Mufaz, Boogie Alon, Gabi Ashkenazi, a lot of leadership. Eisenkot is leading person for the strategic cooperation between the two from August 2016. He got Gantz said that he get the Legion Award as a symbol of the strong connection between the U.S. and the connection between the two countries in February 2016. This is Ashkenazi for his efforts to connect between all the commanding officers. And Barak got it also late. This is 2012 from the American. It says that he was a good compatriot with the United States for a long time after he was retired. And people, their IDF is the people that are in Washington, and he has usually somebody in a commander 2, 3, 4 years in Washington, and his to be the connections between the army of Israel and the army in the U.S. and they do a lot of connections that they use later. Moshe Ivri Sukenik, CEO, is one of the people there. Amos Yadlin, that we say he was labor. He's the head of INSS in Tel Aviv University. The research goes a lot for the left. Research does conferences with U.S. Embassy. He says that Netanyahu was a political game in the campaign between Obama and Netanyahu. He was for Obama. That strategical agreement that was signed, it was a miss. We could have gotten $2 billion. Benny Gantz was also represented in 2000 to 2009 in Ovda. He talked about the Gadi Shamni was also a representative in Washington. It talks about going from the Jordan Valley and one important organization is Washington Institute. And 1995 was founded research institute that gives about the Middle East diplomacy. It's apolitical. You have all the groups. Some Reagan people are there. It's not like the previous one that goes to Democratic left, but it also creates a lot of connections. And many people of the leaders do some time there and become research, does long or short courses. And I see some people that publish some papers there or lectured there. So you see a lot of people went by there. And I see there's a good example for something good that it goes, because this is the base. You have connections that when you can use them also for bad reasons. But Boogie Alon also publishes things there. When he put some things, he's writing there. Each one had time there of the leaders. It's not political. Uzi Dayan was there. Others, it's not necessarily something bad. So we summarize the connections, the good connections, the strategical connections between the army, the Israeli army, and United States creates something that organization connections under the diplomatic connections. This is part of this game, but also very important. But it creates also a base that when there is a problematic government in America, that the government in this, they can't change the Americans. They can't say that the people you're not doing are. In some places it works. In Israel, because of the connection between our IDF and the government, these connections are very important. And when you have somebody that really uses it for bad, it really gives us a lot of strength. Thank you for listening. Thank you for Akiva Bigman. Despite it was hard to hear some of the things, we had to hear it and listen to it, as Akiva said at the beginning. We have to know where these things come and where are we going. If we come for sovereignty newsletter, we look for somebody, security people that you said three. Uzi Dayan is not exactly for sovereignty. It's very difficult to find security IDF people that will protect the official position. Forget about sovereignty, but on the right-wing idea policy, there's not many, and you made it clear very strongly. We have one luck that despite Washington Institute and all that, and Rashi is stronger.